Have you ever felt burdened by a flood of negative thoughts, constantly fretting over things beyond your control or doubting your abilities and self-worth? If so, you're in good company. In our fast-paced world, many of us wrestle with habits that erode our mental health and prevent us from realizing our full potential. But what if I told you there's a timeless philosophy that can help you break free from these harmful patterns, a way of thinking that has been embraced by some of history's most remarkable figures, from emperors to enslaved people, soldiers to scholars? That philosophy is Stoicism, and in this video we'll delve into how its ancient wisdom can help you overcome 7 debilitating habits that may be sabotaging your happiness and success. The Stoics taught that true freedom and peace of mind come from focusing our efforts on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. Epictetus put it simply: there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things beyond the power of our will. Throughout this video, we will explore 7 destructive behaviors that the Stoics identified as barriers to a fulfilling life: overthinking, striving to please everyone, dwelling on the past, constant worrying, self-doubt, negative self-talk, and procrastination. For each of these, we will look at the Stoic viewpoint and gain insights from philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, while also providing practical, modern strategies to help you break these habits for good. Most of you will recognize at least 1 or 2 of these behaviors that may be limiting your life. Perhaps you're someone who overthinks everything, causing your mind to race late into the night. Or maybe you're a people pleaser who has lost touch with your own values and desires. Whatever your struggle, feel free to share it in the comments below. Overcoming deeply ingrained patterns is challenging. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a strong commitment to personal growth, but the rewards are immense: a deep sense of inner peace, unwavering confidence, and the ability to fully live in the moment. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the universe's change our life is what our thoughts make it. By aligning our mindset with Stoic virtues like resilience, self-control, and rational thinking, we can reshape our experiences and regain control over the habits that hold us back. So get ready for an insightful, engaging, and potentially life-altering journey, one where you will gain a better understanding of your behaviors and learn powerful tools to create the life you genuinely want and deserve. A life unburdened by overthinking, people-pleasing, and other habits that drain joy. But to embark on this path, we must begin by tackling the first habit: overthinking. As Seneca wisely said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Let's start this journey by learning how to calm that restless mind. Chapter 1: Overthinking. In today's world, overloaded with information and endless choices, overthinking has become a widespread issue. We're constantly bombarded by stimuli, choices, and what-ifs that push our minds into overdrive. Overthinking is that persistent inner voice that replays past situations, worries about future uncertainties, and blows minor concerns out of proportion. This never-ending cycle of thoughts leaves us feeling exhausted, anxious, and stuck. As Seneca pointed out, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. When we overthink, we create worst-case scenarios in our minds and turn minor issues into major crises. The more we dwell on these imagined fears, the more real and terrifying they seem. This damaging habit doesn't just affect our mental health, it undermines our productivity, decision-making, and ability to enjoy the present moment. When trapped in a loop of overthinking, we lose the capacity to act with purpose and appreciate the beauty and richness of life right in front of us. Thankfully, the ancient Stoics developed strong mental practices to counter overthinking and foster tranquility, a steady inner calm amidst life's inevitable chaos. At the heart of their philosophy was the idea that while we cannot control external events, we can control our judgments and reactions to them. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it." The Stoics believed that overthinking arises from irrational beliefs and desires about how we think the world should be, rather than accepting reality as it is. By shifting our perspective through reason and self-discipline, we can free ourselves from the prison of overthinking. One effective Stoic exercise is called the view from above. This involves stepping back and viewing your current situation from a broader perspective, almost like watching yourself on a vast stage. This mental shift allows you to detach from the narrow focus that fuels overthinking and see your circumstances more rationally and balanced. Another powerful Stoic technique is negative visualization, where you imagine losing what you currently have, such as possessions or relationships. This practice fosters gratitude by reminding you that nothing is guaranteed. Understanding this makes you less likely to cling to or obsess over things that are ultimately temporary. Here are some practical steps. Identify your overthinking triggers. Pay attention to the situations, topics, or times of day when your mind tends to spiral. Pause and breathe when you notice yourself starting to overthink. Pause and take several deep breaths to create some space between you and your racing thoughts. Practice the view from above. Imagine being a detached, impartial observer, watching the situation from afar. How would it appear? How important is it really? Consider long-term relevance. Ask yourself if this issue will matter in a year, 5 years, or even longer. Most things we obsess over have little long-term significance. Engage in Stoic negative visualization. Picture your current situation or possessions being taken away to cultivate gratitude and humility. Stay present whenever your mind drifts to other times. Gently bring it back to the present moment, the only time that truly exists. Have you ever found yourself staring at your phone, agonizing over whether to send a text message you've just drafted? Perhaps you've rewritten it multiple times, scrutinizing every word and punctuation mark for unintended implications. Let's look at Sarah's story. She knows this feeling well. Recently, she sent a simple Slack message to her manager about an upcoming project, a seemingly harmless task. Yet, almost immediately, her mind began to overthink. Did I seem too casual without proper capitalization, or too formal by starting with good morning? Should I have added an emoji to appear friendlier? What if she thinks I'm being passive-aggressive by following up too soon? Before long, Sarah was caught in a whirlpool of imagined interpretations and worst-case scenarios about this trivial interaction. She spent her day distracted, constantly rereading that Slack message and criticizing herself for potentially insensitive phrasing. By the time she got home, Sarah was overwhelmed with anxiety, worried she had somehow offended her manager without realizing it. She even thought about sending a follow-up apology, despite having no real reason to believe she had done anything wrong, all because her overthinking spiraled out of control. Does this sound familiar? We've all fallen into the overthinking trap, turning trivialities into mountains and blowing minor situations out of proportion. As the Stoics taught, when we immerse ourselves in the imagined worries of our restless minds, we often suffer more in imagination than in reality. So let's practice together right now. Close your eyes and picture a recent situation you've been overthinking. Maybe it's feeling rejected after a job interview or dwelling on something someone said. Visualize it clearly. Now zoom out and imagine observing the scene from a third-party perspective. Notice how, from this detached viewpoint, the issue appears smaller and less overwhelming. Reflect on whether this problem will matter in the larger scheme of things a year or 5 years down the line. If it won't, ask yourself why you're allowing it to cause so much distress over something so insignificant and fleeting. Take a deep breath and commit to redirecting your mind's energy toward more productive and enriching thoughts whenever the overthinking loop starts up again. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the universe's change, our life is what our thoughts make it. Let's choose to make it a good one. Throughout this video, I'll include more interactive exercises to help you apply these Stoic solutions immediately. Next, we'll explore the destructive habit of people-pleasing and learn how to reframe it through rational self-interest. Stay tuned. Chapter 2. Trying to please everyone, or people-pleasing. In a world where the pressure to conform and be liked is overwhelming, the desire to gain approval has intensified, especially with the influence of social media. This environment often leads us to fall into the habit of people-pleasing, which can be just as damaging as overthinking. People-pleasing goes beyond mere kindness or consideration. It's an urge to earn approval and avoid conflict, often sacrificing our own well-being and authenticity in the process. A people-pleaser is like a chameleon, constantly changing their behavior, opinions, and values to align with what they believe others expect. This habit shows up in various ways. Agreeing to requests even when overwhelmed. Apologizing excessively even when not at fault. Avoiding sharing true opinions for fear of disagreement. Ignoring personal needs to accommodate others. Feeling responsible for others' emotions and trying to fix them. While people-pleasing might seem harmless or even noble at first glance, it can lead to burnout, resentment, loss of self-identity, and ironically, less genuine relationships. As Epictetus wisely pointed out, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. The Stoics recognize the dangers of trying to please everyone. They believe that true fulfillment comes from staying true to one's values and virtues, not from seeking external validation. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher and emperor, offered this advice: be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. This captures the Stoic approach to dealing with others. Show understanding and kindness without compromising your principles or well-being. The Stoics emphasize focusing on what is within our control. While we can control our actions and reactions, we cannot control others' opinions or feelings about us. Epictetus put it clearly: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. This doesn't mean we should be inconsiderate or selfish. It means finding a balance between kindness and integrity. The Stoics also believed in oikiosis, the process of self-realization and extending our concern outward. This begins with caring for ourselves, then our close relationships, and eventually broadening our circle to include all of humanity. By focusing on our values and well-being, we become better able to support others genuinely rather than simply trying to please them. Practical guide. Identify your core values. Reflect on what truly matters to you. What principles will you uphold regardless of others' opinions? Practice saying no. Start with small steps. Turn down a minor request that doesn't align with your priorities. Remember, saying no to one thing allows you to say yes to something more meaningful. Set and communicate boundaries. Clearly express your limits to others. For instance, I can help with this project, but I need to finish by 5 p.m. to maintain my work-life balance. Embrace discomfort. Understand that it's okay if not everyone likes or agrees with you. As Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Practice self-compassion. When you feel the urge to people please, treat yourself with the kindness you would offer a friend. Reframe your perspective. Instead of aiming to make others happy, focus on being authentic and kind. True connections are built on honesty, not constant agreement. Reflect on consequences. Consider how your choices impact your well-being and values. Is it worth the potential stress or compromise? To illustrate this, let's consider the story of Maria, a talented graphic designer at a busy advertising agency. Known for her creativity and efficiency, Maria struggled with saying no to any requests. Colleagues often asked her for help, even when she was already overwhelmed with projects. Clients demanded last-minute changes and Maria would accommodate them, often working late into the night. When her boss casually suggested weekend work, Maria agreed without hesitation. Initially, Maria took pride in her reputation as the go-to person who could handle anything. However, over time, her constant people-pleasing started to take its toll. Juggling too many commitments, her projects began to suffer. She felt perpetually stressed and resentful but couldn't bring herself to refuse any requests. The tipping point came when Maria missed her sister's wedding anniversary dinner, a promise she had made because a client requested last-minute revisions. Sitting alone in her office that night, Maria realized something needed to change. Inspired by Stoic philosophy, Maria reassessed her priorities and set clear boundaries. She began by having an honest conversation with her boss about her workload and the importance of a better work-life balance. Surprisingly, her boss was supportive and helped redistribute some of her tasks. Maria then started saying no to non-essential requests, focusing her efforts on projects that aligned with her values and career goals. She communicated openly with clients about realistic timelines and the effects of last-minute changes. Initially, this new approach was uncomfortable. Maria worried about disappointing others or damaging her reputation. However, following Epictetus's advice, she learned to be content to be perceived as foolish or stubborn by those who didn't understand her boundaries. Over time, Maria saw a remarkable transformation. Her work quality improved as she focused on fewer, more meaningful projects. She felt more energized and creative. Surprisingly, her professional and personal relationships became more authentic and fulfilling. By staying true to herself, Maria attracted people who valued her for who she was, not just what she could do for them. Maria's journey shows the Stoic principle that true strength comes from being true to one's values and maintaining healthy boundaries, not from trying to please everyone. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Identify areas where you might be caught in the trap of people-pleasing. Is it always saying yes to extra work or agreeing with others even when you internally disagree? Share in the comments one specific instance where you've struggled with people-pleasing. Then, inspired by Stoic principles, describe how you might approach that situation differently. Remember, this journey is about progress, not perfection. Even small steps toward authenticity and healthy boundaries can lead to significant positive changes in your life. As we continue, keep in mind these words from Marcus Aurelius: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In the next section, we'll discuss how to break free from the habit of living in the past, another behavior that steals our present joy and future potential. Chapter 3: Living in the Past. As we navigate through life, it's easy to become trapped by our past. We replay old memories, dwell on past conflicts, and lament missed opportunities. This habit of living in the past is not only common but also harmful, quietly eroding our happiness and stunting our personal growth. Living in the past can take many forms, frequently reminiscing about the good old days, holding on to grudges or resentment over past wrongs, obsessing over past mistakes or failures, comparing current situations unfavorably with past experiences, and clinging to outdated beliefs or viewpoints. While reflecting on the past can be useful, being overly focused on it prevents us from fully engaging with the present and preparing for the future. It's like trying to drive a car while constantly looking in the rearview mirror. You're bound to crash. Marcus Aurelius, a great Stoic philosopher, highlighted this danger when he wrote, "The universe's change our life is what our thoughts make it. When we cling to the past, we resist the natural flow of change and limit our potential for growth and happiness." The Stoics offered profound insights to help us break free from the chains of the past. Central to their philosophy is the focus on the present moment, the only time over which we have any real control. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation and ask yourself why it's so unbearable and can't be survived." This doesn't mean we should ignore the past altogether. The Stoics believed in learning from history, both personal and collective, but emphasized using these lessons to guide our current actions rather than dwelling on what cannot be changed. Epictetus offered this practical wisdom: don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. This perspective encourages us to accept the past as it was, learn from it, and direct our energy toward the present and future. The Stoics acknowledged the impermanence of all things. Heraclitus, an influence on Stoic thought, famously said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." This reminder of constant change helps us let go of the past and embrace the possibilities of the present. Practical guide. Practice mindfulness regularly. Bring your attention back to the present moment. Notice your surroundings, your breath, and your bodily sensations. Journal about the past. Write about past events you're holding on to, but focus on extracting lessons that are relevant to the present and future. Perform a past inventory. Make a list of things from your past that you're holding on to. For each item, ask, "Can I change this now?" If not, practice accepting it and letting it go. Use visualization. Imagine placing past regrets or painful memories into a balloon and watching it float away. Reframe past experiences. Look for growth opportunities in past challenges. Consider how difficult experiences have shaped you positively. Practice gratitude each day. List 3 things you're grateful for in the present. This helps shift your focus from the past to the present. Set future goals. Develop clear, achievable objectives for your future. This gives you something positive to focus on instead of the past. To illustrate this, let's consider the story of David, a 45-year-old marketing executive. 10 years ago, David turned down a job offer from a tech startup, choosing instead to remain in his stable corporate position. That startup eventually became a billion-dollar company, leaving David consumed with regret, and what if his fixation on this missed opportunity began to affect every aspect of his life. He became bitter and resentful, constantly comparing his current life to the imagined life he could have had. His work performance declined as he lost motivation, convinced he had missed his big chance. His relationships also suffered as he withdrew emotionally, caught up in thoughts of what might have been. One day, while browsing a bookstore, David came across a book on Stoic philosophy. He was struck by a quote from Seneca: "The greatest loss of time is delay and expectation, which depend upon the future. We let go of the present, which we have in our power, and look forward to that which depends upon chance, and so relinquish a certainty for an uncertainty." This was a wake-up call for David. He realized he had been sacrificing his present happiness for an idealized past that could never be changed. Inspired by Stoic principles, David began to shift his perspective. He practiced mindfulness, using simple techniques like focusing on his breath to bring himself back to the present moment whenever he found himself dwelling on the past. He started a journal, not to relive old regrets, but to learn from his experiences. He realized that staying in his corporate job had provided the stability needed to support his family during challenging times. David performed a past inventory, listing everything he was holding on to. For each item he asked, "Can I change this now?" If the answer was no, he practiced accepting it and letting it go. He set new future goals, focusing on ways to innovate within his current role and industry, which gave him a positive direction for his energy. David also began a daily gratitude practice, listing 3 things he was thankful for in his present life. This helped him appreciate the value of his current situation. Gradually, David noticed a profound change in his outlook and quality of life. By focusing on the present and future, rather than an unchangeable past, he rediscovered his enthusiasm for his work. He developed innovative marketing strategies that earned him a promotion. His relationships improved as he became more emotionally present and positive. Most importantly, David found a sense of peace and contentment that had eluded him for years. He realized that, while he couldn't change the past, he had the power to shape his present and future. David's journey exemplifies the Stoic principle that true freedom comes from focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, judgments, and actions in the present moment, rather than lamenting what we cannot change. Now I invite you to reflect on your own life with this Stoic lesson in mind. Are there past events or decisions you frequently dwell on? How might this focus on the past be affecting your current happiness and future potential? Take a moment to write down one past event that you often revisit in your mind. Now, using the Stoic approach, ask yourself, what lesson can I take away from this experience? How can I apply this lesson to improve my present and future? What am I grateful for in my current life that this past event made possible? Share your insights in the comments below. Remember, the goal is not to ignore or forget the past, but to use it as a tool for growth and future planning. As we continue, keep in mind these words from Marcus Aurelius: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In the next section, we'll explore how to overcome the habit of constant worrying and find peace amidst life's uncertainties using Stoic principles. Chapter 4: Constantly Worrying. Worry is something all humans experience, but when it becomes chronic, it can paralyze us and steal our joy. In our modern world, where we are bombarded with information and perceived threats, worry has become more common than ever. Worrying is the mind's way of trying to control the uncontrollable, a habit of fixating on possible future problems and often imagining the worst-case scenarios. While some concern can be constructive, excessive worry rarely solves any problems. Instead, it leads to chronic stress and anxiety, difficulty focusing and making decisions, sleep disturbances, physical health problems such as headaches and digestive issues, strained relationships due to a negative outlook, avoidance of new experiences or opportunities out of fear. The irony is that worrying often causes more suffering than the events we're worried about. As Mark Twain humorously said, "I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened." The Stoics saw worry as a misuse of our imagination and offered effective strategies to counter it. A key Stoic concept is the dichotomy of control, the understanding that some things are within our control while others are not. Epictetus expressed this principle clearly: there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. By directing our focus toward what we can control, our thoughts, judgments, and actions, we can let go of futile worries about external events beyond our influence. The Stoics also stressed the importance of living in the present moment. Seneca advised, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. By grounding ourselves in the present, we can avoid falling into the trap of imagining future disasters. Additionally, the Stoics practiced negative visualization, or premeditation of evils. This involves intentionally imagining worst-case scenarios, not to induce worry, but to prepare for them logically and lessen their power to disturb us. As Marcus Aurelius said, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. By mentally preparing for challenges, we become less likely to be thrown off balance when they arise. Practical guide. Practice the dichotomy of control. When you find yourself worrying, ask, is this within my control? If not, focus on accepting it and redirecting your energy toward what you can influence. Use negative visualization. Spend a few minutes each day imagining challenging situations, then consider how you would handle them logically. Implement a worry time. Set aside a specific 15 to 30-minute period each day for worrying. When worries pop up outside of this time, note them down to address later. Practice mindfulness. Regular meditation or mindfulness exercises can help you stay focused on the present moment. Challenge your worries. When a worry arises, ask yourself what evidence supports or contradicts this thought. How likely is it to happen? What's the worst that could happen, and how would I handle it? Take action on solvable problems. If your worry is about something you can influence, develop an action plan rather than dwelling on it. Practice gratitude. Regularly acknowledging what you are thankful for can help shift your focus from potential negatives to existing positives. Consider Sarah, a 32-year-old project manager at a tech startup. Known for her efficiency and attention to detail, Sarah often found herself worrying excessively. She would lie awake at night imagining everything that could go wrong with her current project, replaying every interaction with her team to find potential misunderstandings, and worrying about her job security in the unpredictable tech industry. Sarah's constant worry began to impact her performance. She second-guessed every decision, hesitated to delegate tasks for fear they wouldn't be done perfectly, and struggled to meet deadlines as she obsessed over minor details. Her personal life suffered as well, as she felt too mentally drained to enjoy time with friends and family. The turning point came when Sarah's manager, noticing her stress, suggested a book on Stoic philosophy. Epictetus's teachings, particularly on the dichotomy of control, resonated with her. She realized she was wasting enormous mental energy on things she couldn't control: market trends, her colleagues' opinions, and potential future problems that might never happen. Motivated by Stoic ideas, Sarah began changing her approach. She began each day by listing what was within her control: her effort, responses, and attitude, and what was not, such as the economy, others' actions, and unforeseen obstacles. This helped her direct her energy more productively. Sarah introduced a daily worry time. When worries came up during the day, she noted them down to revisit during her 20-minute worry period. Often by the time this period came, many concerns had either resolved themselves or no longer seemed important. She practiced negative visualization, spending a few minutes each morning thinking about potential challenges she might face that day. This mental preparation made her feel more confident and less anxious when real challenges appeared. Sarah started a mindfulness practice using a smartphone app to guide her through 10-minute daily meditations. This helped her stay present rather than worrying about the future. When worries did arise, Sarah learned to challenge them logically. She asked herself, what's the evidence for this worry? How likely is it to happen? What's the worst-case scenario? And how would I cope? For worries about concrete problems, Sarah shifted from ruminating to taking action. Instead of endlessly worrying about a project deadline, she created a detailed plan to address potential issues. Over time, Sarah noticed a significant shift. Her mind felt clearer, and she slept better. Her work improved as she focused on what she could control and let go of unnecessary worries. She found herself more present and engaged in her relationships. Most importantly, Sarah discovered a new sense of inner peace. As Epictetus taught, people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. By changing her perspective on worry, Sarah transformed her life experience. Now it's your turn to apply these Stoic principles to your worries. Take a moment to identify a recurring worry in your life. Write it down, then ask yourself, is this within my control? If not, can I accept it? What's the evidence for and against this worry? What's the worst that could happen, and how would I cope? Is there any action I can take to address this concern? Share your insights in the comments below. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate worry completely, but to transform it from a paralyzing force into a tool for effective action and personal growth. As we continue, remember these words from Epictetus: make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. In the next section, we'll tackle the damaging habit of self-doubt and explore how Stoic wisdom can help us develop unshakable self-confidence. Chapter 5: Self-doubt. Self-doubt is a powerful enemy that many of us battle daily. It's that persistent inner voice that says, "You're not good enough, you can't do this," or "Who do you think you are?" This continuous questioning of our abilities, worth, and decisions can be debilitating, stalling our growth and keeping us from reaching our full potential. Self-doubt can show up in several ways: reluctance to pursue goals or opportunities, constant comparisons to others, perfectionism and fear of failure, indecision, over-reliance on others for validation, and downplaying our achievements. At its root, self-doubt arises from a lack of confidence in our judgment and abilities. It often stems from past experiences, societal expectations, or the unrealistic standards we set for ourselves. While a certain amount of self-reflection can be helpful, chronic self-doubt undermines our confidence and limits our ability to handle life's challenges effectively. The Stoics, with their emphasis on self-awareness and rational thinking, provide powerful tools to counter self-doubt. They believed that true self-worth comes from within and is based on our character and actions, not on external approval or circumstances. As Epictetus famously said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." This view encourages us to see challenges not as threats to our self-worth, but as opportunities to showcase and build our character. The Stoics also stress the importance of focusing on what is within our control. Marcus Aurelius advised, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By concentrating on our own thoughts, judgments, and actions rather than the opinions of others or external outcomes, we can develop a more stable sense of self-confidence. Additionally, the Stoics practiced negative visualization, imagining worst-case scenarios to mentally prepare for them. Applied to self-doubt, this technique helps us realize that even if our fears are realized, we possess the strength to handle the consequences. Practical guide. Cond. Practice self-awareness regularly. Reflect on your thoughts and actions. Notice when self-doubt surfaces and identify its triggers. Focus on what you can control when facing a challenge. List what aspects are within your control and direct your energy there. Reframe negative self-talk. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, pause and ask, is this thought rational? How would I advise a friend in a similar situation? Embrace failure as a learning opportunity. View mistakes as chances to grow and improve, not as proof of inadequacy. Practice gratitude regularly. Acknowledge your strengths and achievements, no matter how small. Set realistic goals. Break down larger goals into smaller, manageable steps to build confidence through steady progress. Cultivate virtue. Focus on developing positive character traits. Wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control as the foundation of your self-worth. Let's look at the example of Alex, a 28-year-old software developer. Despite being highly skilled, Alex constantly doubted his abilities. He hesitated to apply for promotions, convinced he wasn't ready. He rarely shared his ideas in team meetings, afraid they might be seen as foolish. Even when he succeeded in projects, Alex attributed his success to luck rather than his competence. This self-doubt held Alex back in both his career and personal life. He missed out on growth opportunities, struggled with imposter syndrome, and often felt stressed and unfulfilled. The turning point came when Alex's mentor suggested he read a book on Stoic philosophy. Epictetus's teachings particularly resonated with Alex. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. He realized he had allowed his self-doubt to dictate his responses to every situation. Motivated by Stoic principles, Alex began to change his approach. He started a daily journaling practice to reflect on his thoughts and actions, helping him recognize patterns in his self-doubt and identify the situations that triggered it. Alex focused on what he could control. Before starting a project, he listed the aspects under his influence: his effort, learning, communication, and those he couldn't control, such as others' opinions and unforeseen technical issues. This helped him channel his energy more effectively. He learned to reframe his negative self-talk. When doubt crept in, Alex paused and asked himself, is this thought rational? What would I tell a friend in the same situation? Often, he found that his self-doubt was unfounded or overblown. Alex started to see failure as a chance to learn. When he made mistakes, instead of criticizing himself, he asked, what can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? He began a gratitude practice, writing down 3 things each day that he was proud of. This helped him recognize and appreciate his strengths and achievements, which he had often overlooked. Alex set realistic, incremental goals for himself. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the idea of becoming a perfect developer, he focused on improving one skill at a time. He focused on cultivating virtue in his work, striving for wisdom in his technical decisions, fairness in his interactions with his team, courage in sharing his ideas, and self-control in managing his time and efforts. Over time, Alex noticed a significant change. He felt more confident in team meetings and started sharing his ideas more freely. He applied for and earned a promotion, understanding that even if he didn't get it, the experience was valuable. His work became more satisfying as he focused on personal growth rather than seeking external validation. Most importantly, Alex developed a stronger, more stable sense of self-worth. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By changing his perspective on self-doubt, Alex transformed his entire career and life experience. Now it's your turn to apply these Stoic principles to your self-doubt. Take a moment to identify an area of your life where you often feel self-doubt. Write it down, then ask yourself, what aspects of this situation are within my control? What would I say if I were advising a friend in this situation? What's the worst that could happen, and how would I handle it? What strengths or past successes can I draw upon in this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate self-doubt, but to transform it into a tool for self-reflection and growth. As we continue, Remember these words from Epictetus: the chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. In the next section, we'll tackle the harmful habit of negative self-talk and explore how Stoic wisdom can help us foster a more positive and empowering inner dialogue. Chapter 6: Negative Self-Talk. Negative self-talk is that relentless inner critic that constantly undermines our confidence and skews our perception of reality. It's the voice that tells us, "I'm not good enough, I always mess up, or I'll never succeed." This kind of internal dialogue can become so ingrained that we often don't even realize it's happening. The effects of negative self-talk can be profound: reduced self-esteem and confidence, heightened stress and anxiety, decreased motivation and productivity, self-fulfilling prophecies of failure, strained relationships due to projected insecurities, and missed opportunities caused by fear and self-doubt. Negative self-talk often originates from internalized criticism from others, past failures, or societal expectations. It can become the lens through which we interpret every experience, distorting our view of reality and limiting what we believe we can achieve. The Stoics understood the immense power of our thoughts in shaping our reality. Epictetus famously said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." This insight is crucial when it comes to negative self-talk. The Stoics emphasized the need for rational thinking and self-examination. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." By recognizing that we have control over our thoughts, we can begin to challenge and change our negative self-talk. The Stoics also practiced premeditation of evils, imagining worst-case scenarios to mentally prepare for them. When applied to negative self-talk, this practice helps us understand that even if our fears are realized, we have the strength to cope with the consequences. Focusing on what is within our control is a key Stoic concept. By directing our attention to our thoughts and actions rather than external results or others' opinions, we can cultivate a more positive and empowering inner dialogue. Practical guide. Identify negative self-talk. Pay attention to your internal dialogue. When you notice negative self-talk, pause and acknowledge it. Challenge irrational thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought based on facts? What evidence supports or contradicts it? Reframe negative statements. Change "I can't do this" to "This is challenging, but I can learn and improve." Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a close friend. Use positive affirmations. Create a list of realistic, positive statements about yourself and repeat them regularly. Focus on growth instead of fixating on perceived failures. Ask, what can I learn from this? Cultivate gratitude. Regularly acknowledge your strengths, accomplishments, and the positive aspects of your life. Consider Sophia, a 35-year-old marketing executive. On the outside, Sophia seemed successful and confident, but her inner world was filled with negative self-talk. Every minor setback triggered a storm of self-criticism. "I'm such an idiot. I'll never be good enough. Everyone must think I'm a fraud." This constant negativity took a toll on her. Sophia struggled with insomnia, frequently experienced anxiety attacks, and hesitated to take on new challenges at work. Her relationships also suffered as she projected her insecurities onto others, always assuming they were judging her as harshly as she judged herself. The turning point came when Sophia's therapist introduced her to Stoic philosophy. Epictetus's teaching particularly resonated with her. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. She realized that her negative self-talk wasn't an unavoidable reaction to events, but a habit she could change. Inspired by Stoic principles, Sophia began to transform her inner dialogue. She started keeping a thought log, writing down her negative self-talk throughout the day. This helped her become more aware of her patterns and triggers. Sophia began challenging her irrational thoughts. When her inner critic spoke up, she paused and asked, "Is this thought based on facts? What evidence do I have for or against it?" She learned to reframe her negative statements. "I'm such an idiot" became "I made a mistake, and that's okay. What can I learn from this?" Sophia practiced self-compassion. When she faced challenges, she asked herself, "How would I talk to a friend in this situation?" and applied that kindness to herself. She developed a list of positive affirmations based on her true strengths and values. Each morning, she repeated these affirmations: "I am capable and resilient. I learn and grow from challenges. Others' opinions do not define my worth." Sophia adopted a growth mindset. Instead of seeing setbacks as proof of her inadequacy, she viewed them as opportunities for learning and improvement. She started a daily gratitude practice, noting 3 things she appreciated about herself or her life. This helped balance her tendency to focus on negatives. Gradually, Sophia noticed a significant change. Her anxiety decreased, and she began to sleep better. She felt more confident at work and took on new challenges with enthusiasm rather than fear. Her relationships improved as she became less defensive and more open. Most importantly, Sophia developed a kinder, more supportive relationship with herself. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. By changing the color of her thoughts, Sophia transformed her entire life experience. Now it's your turn to apply these Stoic principles to your negative self-talk. Take a moment to identify a common negative thought you have about yourself. Write it down, then ask yourself, is this thought based on facts? What evidence do I have for or against it? How would I rephrase this thought in a more positive and realistic way? If a friend expressed this thought about themselves, what would I say to them? What can I learn, or how can I grow from the situation that triggered this thought? Share your reflections in the comments below. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all negative thoughts, but to develop a more balanced, rational, and compassionate inner dialogue. As we move forward, keep these words from Seneca in mind. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. In our final section, we'll tackle the pervasive habit of procrastination, exploring how Stoic wisdom can help us overcome inertia and take purposeful action. Chapter 7: Procrastination. Procrastination, the habit of delaying or postponing tasks, is a widespread challenge that can greatly affect our productivity, goals, and overall well-being. It's not just about poor time management. Procrastination often has its roots in deeper emotional and psychological issues. It can show up in various forms, such as putting off important tasks until the last minute, spending too much time on unimportant activities, avoiding difficult or uncomfortable tasks, starting projects without finishing them, and constantly finding excuses for delays. The effects of chronic procrastination can be significant: increased stress and anxiety, missed opportunities and deadlines, lower quality of work, strained relationships and damaged reputation, and feelings of guilt and low self-esteem. At its core, procrastination is often driven by fear of failure, fear of criticism, or fear of not meeting our own or others' expectations. To combat procrastination, we can turn to Stoic philosophy, which emphasizes the importance of taking action and focusing on what is within our control. The Stoics believed that we should approach our tasks with a sense of purpose and urgency, recognizing that time is a finite resource. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This reflects the Stoic commitment to action and the avoidance of unnecessary delay. The Stoics also taught the importance of understanding and overcoming our fears. By acknowledging what we are afraid of, we can address it directly and move forward with courage. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, advised, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." This perspective encourages us to confront our fears and take action, rather than allowing them to paralyze us. Practical guide. Identify the reasons for procrastination. Reflect on why you are avoiding a task. Is it because of fear, lack of confidence, or feeling overwhelmed? Understanding the root cause can help you address it directly. Break tasks into smaller steps. Large tasks can feel daunting, leading to procrastination. Divide them into smaller, manageable parts and focus on completing one step at a time. Set specific deadlines. Establish clear, realistic deadlines for each task or step to create a sense of urgency and accountability. Prioritize tasks. Focus on what is most important and tackle those tasks first. This helps build momentum and reduces the temptation to procrastinate on less critical activities. Remove distractions. Identify and eliminate distractions that may lead to procrastination, such as social media or a cluttered workspace. Practice self-discipline. Commit to starting a task, even if it's just for a few minutes. Often getting started is the hardest part, and once you begin, momentum builds. Reflect on the consequences. Consider the long-term effects of procrastination on your goals, relationships, and well-being. Use this reflection as motivation to take action. Let's look at the example of John, a 40-year-old writer who struggled with procrastination. Despite his passion for writing, John often found himself delaying his work, spending hours on social media or other trivial activities instead of writing. He would frequently wait until the last minute to start projects, leading to rushed work and missed deadlines. His procrastination caused him significant stress and anxiety, and led to a decline in the quality of his work and strained relationships with his clients. The turning point for John came when he discovered Stoic philosophy. He was particularly struck by Marcus Aurelius's reminder to focus on what is within our control and to take immediate action. John realized that his procrastination was driven by fear of not being good enough and fear of criticism. Inspired by Stoic teachings, he began to change his approach. He identified the reasons for his procrastination. John reflected on his fears and acknowledged that they were holding him back. He broke his tasks into smaller steps. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the idea of writing an entire book, he focused on writing one chapter at a time. He set specific deadlines for each task. John created a writing schedule with clear deadlines for each chapter, which helped him stay on track. He prioritized his tasks. John made a habit of starting his day with his most important writing tasks, which helped him build momentum and reduce procrastination. He removed distractions. John eliminated distractions by setting specific times for checking email and social media, allowing him to focus more on his writing. He practiced self-discipline. John committed to writing for at least 15 minutes each day, even when he didn't feel like it. This helped him build a routine and reduce the temptation to procrastinate. He reflected on the consequences of procrastination. John regularly reminded himself of the impact procrastination had on his career and well-being, using this reflection as motivation to stay focused. Over time, John noticed a significant improvement. His stress and anxiety levels decreased as he felt more in control of his work. His writing quality improved, and he began to meet his deadlines consistently. Most importantly, John developed a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment in his work. By applying Stoic principles, he was able to overcome his procrastination and take meaningful action towards his goals. Now it's your turn to apply these Stoic principles to your own battle with procrastination. Take a moment to identify a task you've been putting off. Write it down, then ask yourself, why am I avoiding this task? What fears or concerns are holding me back? How can I break this task into smaller, more manageable steps? What specific deadline can I set to create urgency and accountability? What distractions do I need to eliminate to stay focused? How can I motivate myself to start, even if it's just for a few minutes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate all hesitation, but to transform it into purposeful action. As we conclude, keep these words from Marcus Aurelius in mind: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. By embracing these challenges, you can turn procrastination into an opportunity for growth and achievement.